Hi, this little video is like a hand sewing 101. We're going to cover 3 basics: how to put a knot on the end of your thread so it doesn't slip out, and then also we're going to cover the running stitch and the back stitch. So 2 examples of some basic hand sewing that you can do a lot with in terms of projects. So you have threaded the needle with your thread. It could be a single strand or you could have a double strand depending on how strong you want or you need for your project. But today I'm going to work with a single strand. So your finger has to be clean because you're going to tip it on your, put the tip on your tongue. You're taking the thread and you're going to wrap it around that finger, and then you're going to slide it off so it has this little loop that's got thread wrapped around it. And then you pull that loop down, and now you've got a little knot on the end. If the tail looks like it's too long, you could go ahead and snip it off so it's not as long. Oop, that wasn't the best job. There we go. Alright, so now we have a knot that's not going to come out when we start stitching. So let's start with the running stitch. This is a real basic stitch. I've got 2 pieces of felt here, my needle. So I'm going to start from the back side and I'm going to come through to the front. My needle, my knot is nice and secure back there, and now we're just going to take little stitches. You can have any length you like, whatever you need for your project, but we're going down to the back, up to the front. Or what you could even do is just take the needle, depending on how long it is, and just have the needle go back and forth to the back, to the front, for as long as you can have that needle fit there. And then you pull it, and then you have a really basic stitch. It's called a running stitch because it's running through the fabric. So you could make it a little smaller stitch. So let me see if I can do that here. With the running stitch, it's a little hard to do it. Sometimes you can use it to gather, but see, I'm just getting a lot closer together, so my stitch is just closer a little, so it's not so far apart. And then what happens when you fold it open, and you can see, you know, here's where it's a little longer. You can sort of see where my I'm pulling on it quite a bit, and then where it's closer together, you can see how that is. So if I was done with this, I would knot off the end and we go to the back side, and you take a little piece of fabric there and see how it made a loop. Put the needle through that and snug, and there's the first knot. Take another little piece of fabric. You're not going all the way through, and then you're going to go ahead and in this loop run your needle through. Yep. And that's what happens sometimes, is the little loop decides to close off before you can knot it. And I'm just going to snug it, and there it is. Cut it. Now I've done a running stitch. Here's the back side with my knots, and here's my front side. So let's move on to a back stitch, and this is one of my more favorites. In fact, I use this one quite a bit. I'm going to knot my thread. My fingertip is just a little damp. Going to roll the thread, it's got a loop here with the thread twisted around. I'm going to snug that little loop up. There's my knot, nice and secure. Now the back stitch, this is almost just like a sewing machine stitch. We're going to come up from the back, and then what's so cool about this stitch is you're actually going behind your stitch, then you're going to come forward. Okay, so this is what it looks like in the back. In fact, I'll show you this way. So I'm going behind where I came out the first place. There I am by my knot, and then I go forward a little bit. And now I'm going to go right in between those 2, and then go forward. And I'm going to go right in between. See, and there I am. So on the back side, what this looks like, it'll almost look like a straight line of your stitching because you're always overlapping. And in the front side, it'll have that spacing because you're just, as long as what that width is the length of that stitch that you'll see on that side. But what's really nice is it's a very secure stitch. It's almost the closest thing a hand stitch can come to a sewing machine stitch. So for any kind of projects where you really want it to be snug, this is a great one. It really is, because it's a strong stitch, and especially if you use two pieces of thread, you have a double strand. So what I'll do is I'll come out in the back and I'll knot it off, and there we are. Once again, you're just going to take a little bit of fabric. You're not going through to the front side, and I'm getting hung up everywhere. That'll happen. Take another little bit, and I'm going to let that loop get smaller. I put my needle through it. There we go. So, 2 simple hand stitches, a running stitch because it looks the same front and back, and then this is the back stitch because you're coming in from the front, you come back a step, go forward, back a step, and in the back it'll have a straight line, and in the front you'll have your stitches.